Just look at these pictures on your screens right now. Just look at these pictures and think for a moment, right, ladies and gentlemen, at a time when the country is grappling with a deadly COVID wave. Just look at these pictures which are coming in from Sanand in Gujarat. The group of devotees, those who are completely violating strict COVID norms at a temple, throwing all caution to wind, thousands of devotees assembled at a temple to do a traditional water ritual. Ironically, the devotees were trying to perform a puja to ward off COVID. And look at that. Nobody is wearing any mask. 23 people have now been arrested. I also would like your focus on picture number 2. Just take a look at this in Uttar Pradesh. Remember, Panchayat elections were on. They've just wrapped up. A village head of Lakhimpur Kheri area, Charanjit Kaur, can be seen recklessly firing in celebrations after winning the Panchayat polls. The Neta was seen blatantly flouting COVID norms in his celebrations with hundreds of supporters. And this third shocker from Bulandshahr. The person who has won the Gram Panchayat elections in Bulandshahr area can be seen celebrating and dancing without maintaining any social distancing and wearing any mask. Good evening and welcome. This is India Today, 6 p.m. Prime, coming to you live from the national capital. I am Ankit Tyagi, and these pictures are of anguish, of anger, of shock, because at a time when we are grappling with such a serious crisis, there are people dying outside hospital doors for the lack of oxygen. These COVIDiots are not only putting themselves at risk, but everybody else as well. And then they would be the ones scrumming, searching, screeching for hospital beds. This is not acceptable at a time when the country is dealing with such a serious crisis. On the show today, we'll focus on many important things, but one complaint that we have been hearing from a lot of people have been about how there have been people, those who are even at a time of crisis, trying to make an opportunity out of it, black marketing, selling essential items on a very high price, conning people, and even the ambulances are now overcharging. We completely take the veil off of such vultures, COVID vultures at this moment. So that will be our top focus here. But before we do that, I want to very quickly give you a sense of the COVID march as far as the country is concerned. Where are we standing today in terms of overall numbers? Just take a look at these graphics which we have put on the screen right now. 34,87,229 active cases in the country. 3,82,315. Nearly 4 lakh cases, ladies and gentlemen, in the last 24 hours. 3,780 people have lost their lives because of the coronavirus. I just want to also keep your focus on the worst impacted states. Maharashtra with 51,880 cases is at number 1. Karnataka with 44,631 cases at number 2. Cases rising in southern India. Kerala is at number 3 with 37,190 cases. Uttar Pradesh at 25,770 cases at number 4. And Tamil Nadu at 21,228 cases. So out of the top 3 states, 3 are southern states, 1 northern states, and 1 in the state of Maharashtra, which is at number 2. I very quickly also want to give you a sense of the COVID vaccination program which is going on. Though it is a highly skewed, in fact, vaccination program, and we'll talk about this in the coming, in fact, shows how the government has left so many people out of the net. But at least at this point of time, the coverage is less than 10%, 10 to 20%, more than 20%, in fact, is the vaccination coverage. You can see various, these various colors, in fact, depicting what kind of vaccination coverage has been there as far as the COVID first dose is concerned. And this data is from COVID app till May 3rd. I want to now shift focus to our top story. Ambulances, and I'm standing outside a hospital, All Indian Institute of Medical Sciences. Every few minutes you'll keep hearing an ambulance. Dinesh will just turn around and show you that ambulance just coming out of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. These ambulances are lifeline because they have been in fact going in and out, trying to ferry patients, trying to ferry dead as far as COVID-19 virus is concerned. But there are still people, those who are trying to utilize this crisis as an opportunity. COVID vultures charging extremely high prices for short distances in the national capital as far as the ambulances are concerned. One thing that completely tells you the story of not only the shortage but how people, even at this point of time, don't care about humanity, don't care about human life or even human values. They are just trying to profit, make a quick buck at this moment. Take a look at our special investigation.
A disastrous firestorm. As surging demands bring emergency responders to a breaking point. An India Today investigation found some ambulance operators charging exorbitantly high to shift COVID patients. This ambulance operator outside a private hospital in East Delhi, for instance, demanded 50,000 rupees to transport a sufferer to a healthcare facility in Gurugram. More than 1,000 rupees per kilometer in his ICU ventilator ambulance.
हाँ जी सर बोलिए। मेदांता जाना है। मेदांता जाना है। पेशेंट कहाँ आपका? फार्मा अपार्टमेंट। है जी? फार्मा अपार्टमेंट। अच्छा, वेंटिलेटर पे या ऑक्सीजन पे है? पुलिंग पे है। 50,000 रुपये लगेंगे इसके? बिल आपको मिलेगा नहीं। और फिर पैसा हम एडवांस में लेंगे, जमा करा करके जब चलेंगे।
50,000 rupees for a large ICU ventilator ambulance, which normally wouldn't cost more than 12,000 rupees from Delhi to Gurugram. The cost of PPE kits for medical staff on board included. This ambulance operator outside Delhi's GTB hospital solicited 25,000 rupees for transporting a patient in a small ambulance and 40,000 rupees in a big one.
सारी चीजें ओके हैं। मेदांता ये गुड़गांव वाला
एसी चाहिए ऑक्सीजन
भाई 25 लगेंगे
25,000 रुपये 25,000 रुपये
हाँ एसी रहेगी भाई।
और ये बड़ी वाली नहीं हो सकती क्या?
बड़ी वाली भी मिल जाएगी, बड़ी का रेट ज़्यादा जाएगा। वेंटिलेटर मिल जाएगी, कितना है उसका? उसका 40। चलो।
We next investigate private emergency services in Noida. This ambulance operator here quoted 30,000 rupees for transporting a patient to Gurugram with a doctor on board and 20,000 with nursing staff.
गुड़गांव मैक्स। हेलो, ये कहाँ से जाना है? नीलकंठ। बस सकते तो डॉक्टर के साथ भिजवाऊँ या नर्सिंग स्टाफ के साथ?
आप दोनों के पैसे बता दो, अगर हम अफोर्ड कर पाएंगे तो ऐसे भेज देंगे, या फिर
डॉक्टर के साथ जाएगी तो 30,000 पड़ेंगे। अच्छा, नर्सिंग स्टाफ के साथ जाएगी तो 22,000 रुपये पड़ेंगे। डॉक्टर के साथ जाएगी तो 9,000 का, बस इससे ज़्यादा नहीं पड़ेगा। एम्बुलेंस नहीं है, ढूंढने से भी।
In September last year, the Supreme Court ordered state governments to fix ambulance charges and ensure no patient is overcharged. Them fleecing distraught families during this unprecedented crisis is clearly a result of a lack of enforcement in the national capital region. With Nitin Jain and Mohammad Hizbullah for India Today's investigation team.
So you saw how the ambulances right now are overcharging to ferry the dead, to ferry patients to the hospitals. Exceptionally high charges, 50,000, 60,000, but they are not the only ones, those who are at this moment trying to make a quick buck, trying to in fact fleece people, those who are in desperate need. Oxygen right now is in great demand because of the lack of supply. Oxygen, patients and their relatives are running from pillar to post to get oxygen cylinders for their loved ones. There are many, those who are putting on social media their cries for help, and there are others on social media, those who are trying to fleece them. Online scam jobs, these vultures are not only fleecing people of their money at a desperate hour, they take the money, don't deliver the oxygen cylinders, and leave the patients and their relatives in lurch. Take a look.
In the grip of a ferocious, deadly wave, battling an oxygen emergency, distraught, desperate people turn to WhatsApp groups and social media for leads to the lifeline. But beware of scammers lurking online.
At a time when the human race is up against an unknown virus, it is being betrayed by its own. Friends and family members of COVID patients are struggling to secure necessary medical resources like oxygen for their loved ones. But scamsters are using this humanitarian crisis to con these desperate family members, despite continuous pleas being made by these families that their actions would seriously compromise the lives of these COVID patients.
As stricken families scramble for oxygen, rogue traders are offering quick access to oxygen, of course, at high cost.
My friend is in ICU in a small hospital in Gurgaon. So he had urgent need of oxygen, and the problem was like they was running out of that oxygen supply, and they wanted us to arrange that oxygen somehow. So we thought like maybe if we give some sort of advance to the guy, he will be able to deliver oxygen to us. When I called him, he said that basically he cannot dispatch that cylinder because they are too much demand without at least half of payment. I then sent him a second installation of around 9,000 rupees.
Mayank Jain, a Gurugram-based IT professional, had to make an advance payment of 27,500 rupees in 3 installments for his 34-year-old friend's oxygen cylinder. But the much-needed supplies never arrived. Mayank Jain isn't alone.
I got the lead of this oxygen supplier on the Twitter. Somebody had tagged his number as a verified lead. But to make sure this is verified, I also called up the guy, and he made sure that he told me the oxygen is available, and he also assured me that he will get the oxygen delivered to the family. So that made me actually believe him.
Shikha Tikku has been helping COVID patients. She followed a Twitter post tagged as a verified lead for oxygen in Delhi. Tikku soon realized it was a scam. Scammers even provided fake ID cards.
When I got suspicious, he also made me speak to some person who said he's Pankaj Baduria and he's a vice chairman of this company, of this oxygen company. And to make me believe him, he sent some documents. It consisted of Aadhaar card, PAN card, and he told me that he's a very genuine guy.
If duping patients and their families wasn't enough, fraudsters are also resorting to identity theft in this hour of crisis.
He assured me that he's a genuine guy. He also asked for patient as well, attendants, Aadhaar details, and other address, phone numbers, all other details. So this built a little bit trust, and I still had doubt, but I took again a risk.
Delhi police even issued a special helpline number to register such complaints. But that hasn't deterred the scammers. As police admit that catching these COVID vultures is a time-consuming job, the onus to stay alert has once again fallen back on armed janta. In New Delhi, Ankit Kumar for India Today.
All right, today, in fact, as we've been tracking the daily hearing in the Supreme Court and the High Court regarding the oxygen situation in the national capital, the Supreme Court also came down heavily on the central government for their inability to make sure that the oxygen crisis in the national capital gets over. Now, Supreme Court has put the onus on the centre to supply 700 metric tons of oxygen to Delhi. The Supreme Court made it clear that the centre, that it must supply 700 metric tons to the national capital by any means possible. Wrapping up the centre, the Supreme Court said centre must submit a plan on how to provide oxygen to Delhi by 10:30 p.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, in some reprieve to the centre, Supreme Court delayed the show cause notice for contempt, which was issued by the Delhi High Court yesterday. Meanwhile, the Delhi High Court, ladies and gentlemen, is also hearing this case. It was only after the centre got a drubbing in the Delhi High Court and a threat of a show cause notice of contempt that they went to the Supreme Court as far as this is concerned. Now, the Supreme Court has also squarely put the blame on the central government as far as the current situation of oxygen in the national capital is concerned. Nalini, my colleague, joining us. Nalini, at least, at this point of time, the centre, despite whatever their legal strategy is, there is only one sense that we are hearing from the courts, be it the Delhi High Court or the Supreme Court, that instead of wasting the time in arguments, the centre has to make sure that the oxygen actually reaches the ground.
You know, Ankit, that was precisely the point as to why the Supreme Court has also stayed the show cause notice of contempt today, because they said that putting officers in jail is not going to produce oxygen on the ground or bring oxygen on the ground to the people. So it's not the time to divulge the court's time on contempt notices, but rather focus on how to improve the situation on ground. But at the same time, they've clarified very clearly to the centre that there is no question of not providing 700 metric tons of oxygen to the national capital on a daily basis, because there are orders in place of the Supreme Court as well as the Delhi High Court that have clearly directed the centre to do the same. Now, the centre disagreed with what the Delhi government has said, and the centre told the Supreme Court today that 700 metric tons was actually not required by Delhi, and that Delhi could do with 500 metric tons of oxygen as well. But that's an argument that has absolutely not been accepted by the top court. They've said that in their order that was passed on the 2nd of May, they've categorically mentioned that 700 metric tons of oxygen needs to be provided to Delhi on a daily basis, and that's what the centre has to comply with. So by tomorrow, 10:30 in the morning, they have to file a detailed report of how they plan to acquire the 700 metric tons of oxygen and consequently provide it to Delhi. And the hearing is going to continue before the Supreme Court, even as there is no restriction or no stay that has been put on the High Court from hearing the matter on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Nalini, thank you for joining us with that update. I just want to very quickly just tell our viewers, because the Delhi government has put forward some certain facts today. The Delhi government has said that on May 4th, the demand for oxygen in the national capital was 976 metric ton. And for the first time, Delhi received 555 metric tons. Even if you go by the last allocation of the centre, which is 590 metric tons, even that has not yet been received by the national capital. 555 tons is the maximum which the national capital has received from the centre. The deficit is about 421 metric tons. 48 SOS calls from various hospitals were in fact put out, which the government of Delhi has dealt with. So the situation on the ground in Delhi, quite severe. If 700 metric tons is provided, possibly, and I was speaking to sources in the government of Delhi, they are saying that possibly then you will stop seeing the people struggling on the streets, on the roads, trying to scout for oxygen. That situation will be averted, and there would be more oxygenated beds which would be available for the people of Delhi if they get 700 metric tons of oxygen. We'll have to wait and see how things roll on from here. Quick break at this moment, ladies and gentlemen. Regarding to the oxygen crisis, All India Institute of Medical Sciences today received a big, in fact, boost. The DRDO and the Indian Army has now put up one of the oxygen plants here. These oxygen